Blessings on your readiness to receive. We are going through the beautiful hymn Bhaja Govindam, composed by the great Advaita master Adi Shankaracharya in the 8th century. We are now going to examine verse 23. And as we go through this verse, a great tool is imparted to us to separate from the sufferings and the sheer incredible confusions that surround us in samsara. Samsara for beginners can be understood as something that goes round and round. In an abstract sense, in an actual sense, it pertains to our existence that feels repetitive. And if we look at it, we feel like we've done this before, we've been here before. There are a lot of deja vu moments because again and again, the soul that is caught up in karma trap takes birth to discharge those karmas, but then creates new ones in the process and then is obliged to be reborn, not only on earth, but on thousands of lokas spread across the known and the unknown universe. It cannot be that Earth is the only unique realm where life is. There are many, many lokas, 14 of them well examined by the Vedas, and then many more. It says thousands, innumerable lokas. And we could take birth again and again in those. And the interesting thing is that those births come to an end. There is death, and then there is the beginning of life again. It all feels meaningless after a point. It all feels insubstantial, especially because nothing that we can lay claim to remains with us. All these lokas across the known and unknown samsara are marked by transience, impermanence. And when we lose what we must, including our own body at some point, our own memories at some point, we feel violated. We feel not comfortable. So Bhaj Govindam has been an interesting antidote to the remarkable comfort zones we develop inside samsara, because the Vedas have made an effort to tell us that if you happen to be receiving this knowledge while experiencing the loka called Prithvi Loka or Earth, then this is a remarkable opportunity to wake up. Though we walk around with our eyes open, our ears hearing, our limbs moving, even in our waking state, we are fast asleep. Why are we fast asleep? Because we have not fully woken up to the reality that we are programmed, we are conditioned, that we are not asking the important question of why, what, how am I here? And this is why the entire Vedic tradition is not about the person who gives the answers, but about the person who asks that unique question. Most people ask questions like, how can I get a raise? How can I have a prettier sofa in my living room? How can I attract a soulmate? How can I have conceive again? Knowing fully well that the soulmate, the ever happy ever after, all of these are delusions. It never really happens. There is the rare soul that asks the question, excuse me, but why this and why am I here and why am I stuck? And it is to that person who becomes not only discerning enough to ask that question, but then has an intensity to want that answer. No other answers work for such people. Such a person, known as a mumukshu, the one who wants moksha, the state of receiving all answers and becoming free as a result, that mumukshu, the Bhaj Govindam, has been uttered. And in this important verse, there is some repetition of ideas, but there is also some newness of ideas. In verse 23, there is a repetition of the questions asked by true mumukshus, and then the answer given by Acharya Shankara through his student is the newness that we receive in this verse. So let us begin with verse 23. I will chant it for you. Kostav koham krita ayataha kame janani kame tataha kastvam koham कृत आयातः कामे जननी को मे तातः इति परिभावय सर्वमासारम् विश्वं त्यक्त्वा स्वप्नविचारम् इति परिभावय सर्वमासारम् विश्वं त्यक्त्वा स्वप्नविचारम्. In this beautiful verse, the student of Shankara, an Acharya in his own right, Yogananda, says or presents these questions that we should be thinking about. Who are you? Who am I? Where do I come? And who is this that I have called, or I call today mother? This prop suddenly, mother. And I was put into her womb and plopped out. Who is this mother? Janani, the birth giver. And who is my father? Who are these people that I call mother, father, the most intimate, most revered relationships inside samsara? But a true mumukshu ponders upon this. And then iti paribhavya sarva masaram. Ponder upon exactly these questions. And then you will find that everything seems to lack essence, meaning, explanations. And then the tool comes to us, this one. Vishwam tyaktva swapna vicharam. Swapna means dream. Give up this world with its fixed time and space dimension as a dream, just like when you are adventuring seriously inside a dream when you are sleeping on bed. When you wake up, you don't take a few seconds, microseconds to give it up. Okay, that was just a dream. Doesn't matter. In the same way, ask these questions, see through the hollowness of everything, see how you're on a stage and there's a setup. And then just give it up like a dream, because in the dream also we meet so-called relatives, family members, all those things happen. Just give it up. So this verse is, I agree, very similar to verse 8, which says, Kate Kanta Kasate Putraha. Who is your wife? Who is your husband? Who is your son? Who is your child? Strange indeed is this samsara, samsaro yamativa vichitra. Vichitra means strange. Kasya tamka kuta ayataha tattvam chintaya tadiha bhrataha. And a suggestion had been given that of whom are you? Who do you belong to? From where have you come? Oh, brother, bhrataha. So kindnessly, with kindness, this is Shankaracharya's original quote. Ponder upon these truths. So his disciple creates a quote in the line of his teacher's thinking. The beautiful aspect of Bhaja Govindam, because um, the first set of the bouquet of verses, 12 verses, is by Shankara himself and then by his students, and then Shankara winds them up again. So you see this dialogue of a parampara, of a tradition and like-mindedness. So now again in verse 23, he's saying, ask these questions, who am I? Typically we come across answers like, well, we give our given name, we ascribe to a given family where we suddenly found ourselves. And we describe ourselves as belonging to a given culture, which we did choose, a given skin color, a given religion. And we take the relations of mother and father with so much granted, but there must be a greater intelligence, a greater pattern that is choosing this for us. And so in this verse, we are being asked to introspect further. Iti paribhavaya sarvamasaram. And to then see that just like a dream disappears, if you look at your past life, things are just fading away. People that were important to you have now faded away. People who were living next to you, touching you, speaking to you, hugging you, they're all gone. Where is the mothers and where are the fathers and where are the aunties and where are the grandparents and where are the children you played with when you were 5 or 6? Where is everything? It's all disappearing, disappearing, disappearing. Where is yesterday? Disappeared. Where is the moment a few moments ago? Gone. Everything goes away. So it feels like you're in a dream. So these questions are a toolkit for mumukshus to ask the real question. We get so caught up in he did that and she did that, and I just love this person and I hate this person. But if you think about it, how did they appear in this dream? They're as random as the people who appear in the dream among 7 billion people. Why are you even in 7 billion opportunities to learn? Why are you even in this classroom with me? Some greater, something else going on here. So this line of questioning is not only what Shankara started, but this is also the line of questioning of the entire Vedic Upanishadic tradition. And the Veda and the Upanishad are not different. The Veda is the original context. They were oral for a long time. It's an oral culture of questioning and receiving answers which do not sustain patterns, which question patterns. Upanishads are a subsection of the Vedas, and Bhagavad Gita is a popular Upanishad. So it's all really the same, though we say things like Vedas, Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, only because when we talk about Vedas, we are talking about a lot of literature. Upanishads is a specific literature, and Bhagavad Gita is an important 700 verse subset of that literature. All right. So, and in this entire Vedic pantheon, we find a similar line of thinking. Because when you want to get out of something or question it, then you have to examine it. And those people who examine it ask questions that are non-routine. So, for example, in Aparokshanubhuti, we come across this verse, similar verses. Koham kathamidam jatam ko vai kartasya vidyate upadanam kimastiha vicharaha soyamidrishaha. Who am I? How did all this come to be? Who indeed knows the true doer of this? Who is the cause of here? What is happening now? This is the inquiry. This is deep thinking. Our gut reaction is to like something or dislike something, to reject something, to accept something, to want something, to miss something. Then you're still in the samsaric mode of gut reactions. But the examination mode, the inquiry mode is pure Jnana Yoga. Jnana Yoga, what is the toolkit of Jnana Yoga? Inquiry. Inquire into the substantiveness of something. And that is why in an Upanishad, Maha Upanishad, we come across, this verse, which I can translate in English as, who am I? How did this blemish of a samsara emerge that I see in front of me, touch, and act in? How? And I remember that word blemish. That's an important word. It's a blemish because it's a, to use colloquial language, it's a pain. It causes suffering. No one is happy in it. That is why in this verse 23, we are recommended Vishvam Tyaktva Sapna Vicharam. Just like you do not put your eggs in the basket of the dreams, do not be attached to this samsara and even set it aside after inquiry. That is no more than a dream. And that is why in another verse, verse 56 of the Aparoksha Anubhuti scripture, we come across Anubhutopyayam loko vyavaharam kshamopi san asadrupo yatha swapna uttarakshana badataha. And this verse says, even though this phenomenal transactional world is experienced in a really tangible way and seems capable of functioning, and you feel very, uh, alert while transacting in it, but this world is also unreal, like a dream that is disturbed or disrupted by the moment you wake up. In the same way, these teachings are coming from a whole civilization that woke up, the Vedic civilization, and it precedes Hinduism, Buddhism, Sikhism, Jainism. This is not a religious exposition. This is a quantum science exposition. Upanishads are quantum science. And these are teachings of people who said, look here, just like when you wake up from your dream, the dream feels insubstantial. When you wake up through the process of the yogas from this world and through your inquiry, you look at it and you see the insubstantiveness of everything here. You even realize that the gods you've been worshipping, you made them up. You made up their stories. You wrote their books. Nothing makes any sense to you except for the seer in you, who sees, who knows now, and who discards, you will realize that this world too is nothing more than a fleeting dream. This is what this verse is saying. That is why in the Ashtavakra Samhita, which is authored by a great rishi, Ashtavakra, Upanishadic rishi, says, alas, such things that we perceive, friends, relatives, land, wealth, property, husbands, wives, children, inheritance, are nothing more than dreams, or fleeting dreams, rather, fleeting illusions lasting merely 3 to 5 days at best. Means nothing lasts. It all comes around you and then disappears, like a conjurer's magic show at best. That is why in the beautiful Atma, which I plan to teach very soon, Shankaracharya himself says, and this is a more of a singing verse, samsara swapna tulyo hi raga dveshadi sankulaha swakale satyavad bhati prabodhe satyam sat bhavet. This world is indeed like a dream filled with attachments and aversions, but even they don't last. It appears true in its own time. When the samsara is occurring right now, feel it around you. It's there. But in just a few moments, a few hours down the road, you would have forgotten this. It's all gone. But in realization, it becomes known. When you realize through knowledge, through jnana, this is a complete jnana yoga verse, you realize that it is ultimately illusory. This is why the jnani, the knower, does not lament nor get excited. Neither possesses nor can things be taken away from them. They see that samsara, it's all happening. It's like I've entered this Alice in Wonderland. I've entered this strange setup in which certain rules like law of karma work. And at the end of it, I come in, things build up for a while, and then they get taken away to the point where my body is taken away and it starts again. So this is some kind of a dream that I keep. I'm somewhere else. I'm having this almost like your avatar is going through this. Anyway, so this is the teaching that inquire and discard it like a dream. So now we have to look at this concept of dream and the 3 levels of reality. So Upanishads say that there is a waking state and your ego is active in the waking state, like right now. Our ego knows each other, and I am your teacher, you are my student, and we have a certain relationship. I'm Acharya to some, Guru to some. Then when this class ends, I'm wife to some, I'm mother to some. So we play all these different roles in our waking state. Okay. But then this is our shared dream. We share it. And people who live close by or meet often have more of a shared aspect. But we're all sharing it. Then we go into our individual private dreams when we fall asleep. Then another ego, our dreaming ego has experiences and does not remember this world. It does not remember this world. It does not remember this world. If it is hungry or thirsty in the dream, then the dream ego, the dream us, in that sleeping dream, go look for food and hunger in those dreams. And we suffer if we can't find them. But there may be food in our refrigerator in this world, and there may be water next to our bed on our bedstand. We don't remember. This world has become negated when those worlds are there. And when we are in this world, those worlds don't matter. So we're just transferring between worlds like a machine. It's happening. So when we are in dreams, there is no contact with this world. When we are in this world, there is no contact with those worlds. So what the Upanishads are trying to tell us is that these are all projected by our minds. Are projected by. And there are layers in your mind because of which you are being forced to participate here in this world. It is good that your mind has projected now a guru and a teacher and a shastra, but it's still a projection. There is something beyond. So we have to investigate. When we investigate it, we realize it's true. Nothing is substantial. So the difference between an inquirer, a mumukshu, and normal, ordinary bhogi person, Anna, is that we do not take the world at face value. And we do not follow rules blindly. The rules of at this age you must get married, at this age you must have a child, by this age you must have so much retirement, by this age you must... Then there's just follow the rules. And it seems like that is the whole point, that we all keep following these conditioned rules of being a jiva, forever hankering after the next thing, forever crying for whatever is taken for us, sitting and bewailing when people die and rejoicing when young kids are born. But often we will find that if you inquire, we become depressed when somebody is born. Oh my goodness, back again. Poor trapped soul has to start again. And we are looking forward to death. The inquirers, they change. Oh, relief is nearby. So you see, inquiry changes the way we approach Earth, approach its rules, approach what people laugh and cry about. It becomes opposite. So that is why we come across this Upanishad, Mundaka Upanishad, in which we look at the journey of a seeker like yourselves. And it always begins with a word called pariksha. Pariksha means examining with your eyes of knowledge, not just what you see. Pariksha lokan karma chitan brahmano nirvedamayan nastya krita kritena na satya krita kritena tad vignanartham sa gurumeva vigacchate samitpanihi shotriyam brahmanishtham. This is an entire verse, a teaching, which says, look, if you have examined the world through such teachings as the Bhaja Govindam, through such sessions as these sessions, and you have now seen how worthless is samsara because there is no escape from karma. The previous karmas keep coming to you and make you sorrowful or happy. But the moment those karmas end, your happiness ends and your sorrow also changes. So nothing is in your control. And on top of that, in dealing with those karmas, you create more karmas. And so you are just being conditioned by the law of karma, the law of this land. So when you realize that this world, which is regulated by the law of karma, is not something you want to stay in or keep coming back to or belong to, and that there is nothing eternal about this, it is transient, then to acquire the deep Upanishadic knowledge, then you take, in the ancient days, we didn't approach the teacher empty-handed. We approached the teacher with what is known as samid. Samid means fuel. It means some dakshina, some offering or wood to burn the fire. It is symbolic of, I will take care of your physical body because so that you don't have to go earning. living in samsara to stay, because hunger is a problem in samsara that attacks us 3 times a day, while you teach me this knowledge. So, because it is in the seeker's interest that the guru be relieved of samsaric responsibilities to be able to teach you. This was the old days. Nowadays, it is the teacher whose responsibility is to set up everything. That is a different issue. But the point is that this is an ancient verse. So it says, approach a knower, a Brahman. A Brahman is one who knows Brahman, with fuel, with energetic substances in your hand. Approach that preceptor, that guru, that teacher, and who is in the knowledge of Brahman, the knowledge of the Ishvara, and learn about your true nature. So what is beautiful here is, and a lot of this still counts, that look, it's up to you. If you begin this inquiry and you begin seeing either on your own or through beginning understanding that, look, there are all these patterns that are eliciting likes and dislikes, hatred and anger, emotions in me. And emotions are not the ultimate truth. Feelings are not the ultimate truth. Body is not the ultimate truth. Wealth is not the ultimate truth. Relatives is not the ultimate truth. Child and partner is, then what is? And when we want to discover that, and when we want to discover the awakening route, then it is for us to seek out the teacher and to approach the teacher. So when we say it is up to us, it means it is up to us. For example, in your case, it would be to show up in Bhaja Govindam. It is up to us to review something now that we have technology to aid. I think there's technology aids moksha. So we are in a good place. So it is for me. I myself right now have a Bhagavad Gita sitting next to me. Why? It is up to us to do it because we want to go beyond samsara. Strive to know your Atma, strive to know your true self rather than drowning in the ocean of samsara on day-to-day basis. So I would like to conclude with a side teaching to this verse here. In the Ashtavakra Samhita, Rishi Ashtavakra, Ashtavakra means deformed in 8 places. And I speak about his story in my book, Sovereign Selves. I would recommend you look it up again. But Ashtavakra was a child that was deformed in his body in 8 places. So he walked or moved in a very non-usual way. He looked strange, moving his body, which was deformed in 8 places. But he was born his maternal grandfather was a guru, was a rishi, great rishi. His father had died, and he had been punished by the king of the land for something. And so he grew up in his maternal grandfather's home, who was a rishi. And so he grew up learning, just like I grew up learning. If you're born in your grandfather or your father's family, you are fortunate to be exposed to that knowledge. So he was fortunate to be born into the Rishi's family, and he learned, but he was a great Rishi himself, though born in a body with 8 deformities, which was the karmic punishment of something else. But now his story was proceeding, and he had been born in a Rishi's family. He came to know that his father had been unjustly put to death by their king. And during that time, there was this, people take knowledge and convert it into a sport. So the rule in the kingdom, in the king's palace, was that come and do a spiritual debate. For example, Advaita versus Dvaita, duality versus non-duality, or this theory versus that theory. Is samsara real or unreal? Okay, let's have a discussion. And whoever wins will get rewarded by the king, and whoever loses will be asked to drown themselves or something, because you don't know, and you might as well start again in samsara. So, but it was kind of like a forced death. And so Ashtavakra felt that this was a very unfair thing. And so he made his way. When he came of age, he was like 13, 14, 15. So he was a giant in his knowledge by that time. And so he crawled his way to the palace of the king, and he went into the room where the king was available for commoners to come in and bring up their concerns. So when he came in, pulling in his body, people started sniggering and joking and laughing. What would he know? But people were laughing. So then Ashtavakra spoke to the king and looked at him in the eye and said, I thought this was an assembly of learned people and the king's people who are smart and have achieved something in their life. I didn't know that this was an assembly of shoemakers who only see the skin. What that meant was, you only see my body. Your perception is unable to see beyond this body. And, typically a shoemaker, whenever it sees something living, it focuses on the skin because that's the leather. Just it's just a way to show. It's not demeaning the shoemaker. It's saying, okay, your perception belongs there. The king looked into his eye and heard this profound statement from a young boy, and he realized this is not a normal person who has come into my court. So the king stepped down from his throne and came and bowed to him, as is the tradition that wealth bows to knowledge in the Vedic tradition. And the kings always give room for the rishi, the sadhu, the guru to sit there. Said, you sit on my throne and please teach us. And that is when this Samhita was spoken. It's a very profound teaching. So he says, Anityam sarvamevedam tapratritaya doshitam asaram ninditam heyam iti nishchitaya shamyati. So what does Sage Ashtavakra say? He says, all this that you see around you is impermanent. And it is spoiled by three types of pain, which we will discuss. So recognize that everything is infused with three kinds of suffering, and it is worth rejecting. One attains peace. So I want to tell you about these three types of pain now. So pain is known as dukkha. Ka means space, and du means contracted space. And everything that is happy is known as sukha. Ka means happiness, and su means expansive. So when we become contracted inside us, that is known as dukkha. And there are three causes of dukkha that incessantly affect each one of us. They affect me, they affect you, they affect a tiny daisy in your garden, they affect a tiny earthworm. It's constantly happening. Nobody can escape this in samsara. The first type of suffering is interpersonal suffering, also known as Adi Bhautika Dukkha. Doesn't matter if you remember Sanskrit or not. Adi Bhautik, Adi Bhautik Dukkha. So in our case, this would be the suffering engendered to us by other human beings and specifically other human beings, because we are, same species. So betrayal by a spouse, by friends, by partners, by sometimes betrayal by, um, you know, politicians, betrayals by best friends, lovers, and then at a large level, conflicts in society, violence in society. There's constantly, it is coming at you. These are like waves, you know. I don't think there is anyone on earth who can say that there is no suffering. What you do with the suffering may be dependent on the degree of samsaric attachment or detachment you have. Even Buddha, his own brother, his own cousin conspired against him and actually threw a rock, a large rock towards him so that Buddha would be crushed under the rock. Jesus was hung and left to bleed. Jesus didn't suffer or Buddha didn't suffer is to their merit. But all this was going on constantly. Even in the most great people's life, you will find backstabbers, betrayers, violators. And even if they are peaceful, people around them are causing those waves of sorrow. So this is the interpersonal suffering, adhibhautika dukkha. Then, even if your relationships are a little bit calm temporarily, only temporarily on the surface, there is the adhidevika suffering. What? Suddenly, these are the cosmic forces. So you can have a tsunami, an earthquake. It seems like there is some agency, Ishvara's agency, which seems to rustle up all kinds of suffering. Just happens. We are dealing with in United States, we are dealing with um, you know, the wrath of Ishvara through season change and through floods and through all kinds of natural disasters. So it feels like it's beyond us. Okay, so that's another suffering that happens. This includes the cruelty of time. Everything crumbles, everything ends. That's what's happening. Then, okay, then the third one is internal suffering. This happens within each person, each living being, whether you're an earthworm, you're a blade of grass, or you're a human being. This is pertaining to your body, there is suffering. Pertaining to your mind, there is suffering. And this chronic illness, emotional disturbances, conflicts between mind, body, speech, thought, feelings, all torn up. So this interpersonal suffering, then cosmic suffering, the way it's set up, Earth, and sometimes a meteor is coming to hit us. All things are happening, you know. And finally, there is constant, incessant internal anxiety, distress, unhappiness, cancers, boils, dosha imbalance, prana imbalance. All this is going on. Constantly, this suffering is going on. So in interpersonal disagreements, arguments, misunderstandings, social injustices, discrimination, oppression, inequality, violence, acts of aggression, theft, physical, emotional harm, betrayal, deception, loss of trust, trust breaches, deceit, personal, professional, domestic, universal, going on. And then in Adhidevika, we come across this is the fate, the unseen. This is, these are agencies beyond us, as if there is some retribution happening towards us, preordination of things. regardless of your effort, preordination, even Daivik is like fate, prarabdha karma, fixed karma. You try very hard, fate will go only one way. So this is the universal principles beyond us that are operating, plus natural disasters, karmic retribution, inevitable hardships. They force upon us acceptance, resignation, moral and ethical proprietorship behaviors, makes us do spiritual reflection. All these sufferings are making us grow, but they are happening. Oh, I'd love to graduate from such a school, yeah? And then internally, physical illness, physical suffering, injuries, chronic pain, anxiety, depression, fear, other negative emotions, jealousy eating us alive, struggles with personal identity, purpose, existential suffering. All this is happening inside. So inside is suffering, with others is suffering, then unexpectedly we are suffering, and we are trying to say, oh, if I just get a job if I just get married by 30, have a kid by 35, if I can just have a perfect marriage and have a Martha Stewart kitchen and a vacation and I'm just gonna have this perfect and that, but you're holding sand and it's just slipping away. That is samsara. So let us try to understand our true identity, because the only way to wake up from this dream full of three kinds of suffering is to become aware of a dream, no longer lead conditioned, sleepwalking, scripted lives. To question the ordinary is to then reach for the extraordinary. Refuse to be only a samsaric being and work on your Atmic identity, which all of you are doing beautifully through study of the Bhaja Govindam, and many of you are also taking advantage of other Shastra study opportunity. Sometimes these dukkhas come in the way and prevent us also from study. Internal conflicts, outer situations. Somebody wrote to me from a war-torn country and said, I used to log in I would log in to read your book on Kindle, but now I don't have a computer, or very rare, but whatever words I read from Sovereign Self are helping me. So this is the essence. But that person, I do not know if what's going on with them. So that rare opportunity to look at this whole world as another dream is a tool, because then whatever you do in it is whatever is naturally happening with ease and effort, without trying to be too acquisitive, too much controlling. And when dark things come and light things come, knowing that, okay, this is that other waves of dukkha that is operating. All you can do, what can you do? What can you do except to wake up entirely? And the more you separate and you look at the person not as your husband or your wife or your in-law or your boss who's bothering you, but you look at, oh, this is a setup. And you just look at them with woke eyes. That is only the time when they may still physically harm you or verbally say things to you, but they won't be able to emotionally get at you, because you realize that some past karma, some divine agency clearly wants me to undergo this suffering. And with this, and the whole point is it's going to keep going. There is no rationale behind it. There is no rationale. There's only one thing rational, and that is the Atmic, Ishwaric, Brahmanic axis, that axis. There is something that is incredibly amazing, whole, and untouched even inside this. That is the Govinda factor. That is Ishvara. That is Atman. That is Brahman. When we see it within ourselves, we call it Atman. When we see it as a divine help, we call it Ishvara. When we see it as a totality beyond even this samsara, it is called Brahman. There are different terms for it. Our journey is to Bhaja Govinda. In this specific hymn, along with Jnana Yoga, we have Bhakti Yoga. So it is not simply know Govinda. It is Bhaja Govinda. Bhaj is the root word of bhakti. To have a devotional love. So if you want to love anything in samsara, then it is this light, this divine essence. And stand in the middle of turbulent ocean. The waves are coming to eat you up. There is a crocodile below you that wants to consume you. There are fires blowing around you. Imagine that. There are mountains crumbling and rocks are falling on your head, and you start praying. And that prayer is more like, oh Govinda, wake up inside me. Oh Govinda, save me from my own ego that has fallen asleep and believes everything to be so true. Like I have to fix this. And gradually, the more you wake up and separate with detached eye, the more the samsara is like a storm in a coffee cup. It doesn't seem to have that impact on you. That is the interesting thing. And you will know that you are becoming more and more samsara immune when those same things that would have caused you extreme suffering cause you less and less dukkha. So with those blessings, may you continue on your beautiful journey. Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam. So I'm turning on my gallery view. Jema to each one of you. Beautiful, lovely faces in the morning. Beautiful. Take care until next time, Jema. So we are on verse 23. So you can calculate. I'm taking about a verse per week. So you can calculate how many more weeks we will go until we hit the last one, the 31st verse. And then we will do one more session of Q&A. Jema.